Okay, so now I have the pleasure of introducing you to Michele Wang. And Michele is a former boot camper, right? All
Yeah.
right.
Yes, I
And
am.
so Michele is a serial entrepreneur and she's done some really fun and impressive things in her career. But she started a company recently and really getting ramped up called Sagely. And what they do is they provide advisory services to small companies and entrepreneurs. And so I asked Michele to be a speaker here for two reasons. Number one, many of you are starting businesses or are involved in small businesses. I want you to know about Michele's services, and to our bootcamp community of amazing individuals, you could be a sage. So I'm going to turn it over to Michele, and she's going to introduce her company, and then we'll have conversations about what it means to use Sagely, and then how you can become a sage.
Thank you for the intro. Good morning, everyone. I'm Michele, the founder of Sagely, where we really believe that the future is small business, but big impact. Um, Everyone's familiar with the saying that small businesses are the backbone of the economy, but there's so much more than just the backbone. Over 99.9% of all businesses in the US are considered a small business. When I started my first startup in 2017, after leaving a successful corporate career in strategy and ops, I started consulting. And at first with larger corporate organizations like Disney and Apple, but then through referrals, started working with small businesses. And as a daughter of a small business owner and former current small business consultant, I was shocked to find that the problems my parents faced a decade ago were still problems that small businesses face today. The reasons why they closed their doors are the same reasons threatening to put like countless of other businesses out of business. So we created Sagely, and the stats are pretty wild. 20% of small businesses fail within the first year, 50% within 5 years, 70% don't make it to 10 years. And despite kind of that consistent small business growth, we're seeing the rate of failure has remained relatively stagnant. And we aggregated the most common reasons why small businesses fail and realized that most of them are extremely addressable with the help of experts, other businesses, technology. Example, your marketing agency owner is great at marketing, and your neighborhood jujitsu owner, gym owner is great at jujitsu. Your local yoga studio owner is great at teaching yoga, but they're generally not experts when it comes to strategy, operations, finance, branding, and general business management. We're building Sagely to fill that gap and provide very broad-based support for small business owners to minimize the cost of bad decisions and help them get further. We launched we're focusing on the most immediate need, which is bridging that customers at the top of the funnel with very tailored on-demand expert advice. And so think of us kind of like a subscription-based advisory board. Are there any people that have visited our website lately? Some of you, awesome. So our website so it goes into a little bit more detail about kind of how our services work, and our small businesses can join really quickly. So within 5-10 minutes, they can sign up, tell us a little bit about their company, and access our network of sages. They get credits, 2 credits, and they can use these credits to book sessions with anybody in our network. And get an advisory session as early as tomorrow. Our advisory sessions are 40 minutes in length, 20 minutes for attorneys, and because their bill rate is just really too high. And then what we do is we focus on very high level kind of board advisory work. So you're not going to be asked to do any sort of, follow-up work or turn in any kind of any worksheets or anything like that. We do ask that our sages write like a quick write up after the session, which should take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And that's automatically sent to the client. So I will open it up at this point to questions.
So, Michele, tell us a little bit about the success that you've had with helping entrepreneurs so far.
We started, so it's very new. Our service is first to market, so we don't have any direct competitors. And like every startup founder, you go through this stage where you're like, oh, okay, I'll build it and they will come. That is not the case. That is definitely not the case. But we were able to get some really, really great traction early on and get some evangelists, and so we have a lot of small customers now that love our service, that have been with us for 3 to 4 months, 4 to 5 months, and they've referred us to a lot of other small businesses. A few of our sages are also customers as well, because they are experts in what they do and their business, but realize that, sometimes when you're too close to the fire, it's hard to see kind of, the big picture.
So Bill asked a good question. What are the top five reasons that businesses fail in the first 5 years? Do you know that?
Yes. So it's financial, uh, financial issues, marketing, general business management. I think the stat is like over 70% of small business owners don't have a college degree in the US. And then you have lack of product market fit and general lack of product market fit. And the last one is customers. So not knowing kind of what their customers want. So those are the top 5 reasons. And we aggregated research from over 50 articles that then aggregated research from hundreds of other sources. And we kept on noticing these themes come up. So those are the reasons.
So it's interesting. Okay, but I'm going to ask, what is your grand vision, Michele?
So we want to create an ecosystem to support the small business owner. It's not just advisory. Think of when we work with small businesses, especially micro businesses, right? Because the scale of small business is so broad. When we work with small businesses and micro businesses, they need a lot of support. And there's a lot of support out there right now, but the quality of support and the time that it takes to find the support is extremely, extremely time consuming and difficult. They also don't know how to vet the support. So we want to start with advisory services, and then we're currently building out our marketplace, our third-party software and services marketplace. We're going to move into AI-based, like an AI knowledge base as well. On that data on micro businesses, it just doesn't exist right now, and so in the long run, Sagely, and this is what most of our VC partners, I think, find the most valuable in Sagely, is that the data that we're going to have on what micro and small businesses by industry, by geography, by skill level of the founder, all of these different factors. What are the issues that they go through? At what stage in their business are they having these issues? And the hope is to be able to use all of that data to advocate on behalf of this community that we serve.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And okay, Greg, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you. If I can guess, I think maybe one of the biggest challenges is bridging the gap between what you as an expert have a good understanding that the customer needs and what the customer by themselves have an understanding of what they need, that many times they have no clue what they need, but they need a lot of help. And then they bridging the gap between being able to understand why they should invest, and they're feeling that they have to, because they have financial challenges, they have to hold on to every penny they can and don't want to invest. So those are two gaps that I think a lot of small businesses have, but how do you address those?
That's true. So very accurate. Um, so when we launched Sagely, I also thought that most, startup founders or small business owners were like me, right? I know exactly what I want. I'm gonna go find someone and say, okay, this is who I need to talk to and book an appointment. That was also not the case. And so we've had to make some pivots in how our sign up flow works. Um, when a customer signs up, they book an onboarding call with us. And we found that most small businesses know that they need help in certain areas, but don't know how to prioritize that help and don't know how to prioritize their problems, and don't know who to speak to. For example, in marketing, you can be a marketing expert, but there's so many different areas, right? You have performance marketing, you have content marketing, you have product marketing, there's just so many different areas within marketing, and experts that have expertise in those specific areas, and most of our customers don't know that. So we do go through an onboarding session. And prior to the onboarding session, we give them kind of like a little survey that they fill out about what's keeping them up at night. And we use that to discuss kind of like a string of sages that they can meet with.
So how do you vet your sages?
We go through a pretty robust vetting process. So when our sages join, we do have a wait list of sages just because, we're building, at least now, it's like a two-sided platform similar to Uber, right? Like we can't have thousand a thousand drivers and like two riders. And so we're being very careful about how we do scale and focusing kind of where our customers need that support. Um, and that said, it's extremely helpful to have a bench of sages kind of with that broad background. And we do notice too that popular kind of functional areas, we assume that maybe uh, marketing maybe would be really popular, but that's actually not the case. Marketing can be popular for 2 weeks, and then sales is the really, or acquisitions or growth is like really popular for 3 weeks. And then our most popular stage, the last 2 weeks has been go to market, our go to market stages. So it really changes. We go through interview process. We do a background check and do pretty heavy kind of open source vetting. And then we train our sages on our proprietary advisory framework that we developed.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so Anne Marie asked, talk us through what you look for in sages. How are the sages used? Single sessions or ongoing? Do the sages work together or more individual?
So all of our sages have access to kind of our Slack channel with our Sage network. So it's great because some of our sages will also need some help in an area and just put it in the Slack channel, and other sages will chime in, like, oh yeah, I have a template for this, or anything of that sort. So that's been really cool. That's normally how they work together, unless I connect them. Um, Kind of personally via email for a client that, let's say two sages have been working really closely with a certain client, and we're bringing in like a third sage for a different area. We'll give them a background of what they've been working on. So our sages do work together. They, what was the other part of the question?
Uh, let's see. Mostly single sessions or ongoing. Do sages work together or more individual?
So most of our sages do, it's an ongoing commitment. So when you sign on to be a sage, we sign you up as a 1099 as a contractor with Sagely. We issue you an email, a professional, like a business licensed Zoom account, and a licensed Slack account and Calendly account for you to connect all of your other calendars. And that connects kind of your availability to our platform. And so you could say like, hey, I want to be available Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for these 3 or 4 blocks of hours. And if you already have something on any of your other calendars, it won't even show up as availability to our clients. And most of our sages, when they join, they choose to open a big block of hours, or just their entire kind of like regular normal workday schedule. Where our busiest sage gets booked about 4 times a week currently, but we ask that our sages make at least 3 hours available per week.
A week?
Per week. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
per month. Sorry, per month.
Okay.
3 hours
So,
available per month.
so Bill has a question. How much advice is strategic versus tactical, short term versus long term?
It depends on the client, really. Um, it really depends on the client. Sometimes we have clients that come to us with very strategic questions, and they need, for example, we have a client that came to us and said, hey, we're doing about $500,000 a year. And I want to break $1 million, but I don't know how to do that. And so I need help. And then some of our clients come to us with, I keep getting rejections. I don't know how to handle, I need a better close rate on my sales calls. And so those discussions are very, very tactical.
Okay. And then Bill has, what industries do most of your clients serve? Are they primarily services or do they manufacture a product?
Both. Mostly it's about 70-30 services, but we do have consumer products as well.
Great. Dan, you have a question.
Well, I kind of wanted to follow on to Greg's comments. You responded with marketing, sales, and just looking at those 2 topics. From a selling perspective, your clients, do you find they're good listeners, right?
Extremely. And so the reason why, when we launched Safely, I initially just said, hey, I want to go after those customers, small businesses, right? Or micro businesses, those under 20 employee small businesses, but found that I really had to segment even deeper, right? And so we found this extreme lack of data in this area. And so with a bunch of our sages, we actually went and created our own psychographic profiles on micro businesses and define them into kind of like stages of growth for each business. And some of our sages are, lecturers at Stanford, professors at UW, Olin School of Business. And so really working with these experts in their kind of functional area. And we came up with, okay, these are the 2 stages of business that we really want to focus on. It's the existence, so I just created my business, within a year, I need help, or the survival. So I'm kind of like barely making enough to cover expenses and incidentals. And when we focus on these businesses, they are strapped for cash, right? Which is why our subscription fees are so low. We're really targeting kind of more of a broader scope of customers than looking to one customer spend thousands and thousands of dollars with us, even though we do want that in the long run. But these customers have real problems. These aren't people thinking about opening a business. They've actually started their business. And because they have real problems, and if we can get them to the point where they commit to Sagely, they come with an open mind and they do want to listen. But there's also an art in advising, right? You can't go to a session and tell them, oh yeah, you're doing like something horrible. For example, we had a chiropractor who joined, and he was structured as a sole proprietor, and so going through potential legal issues, right? It's like, oh, wow, well, no one in your 30 years of practice told you that that opened you up to an insane amount of personal liability, right? But you can't, you can't meet their problems with that. Oh, you have to meet their problems with respect, recognize kind of these emotional thinking patterns, and you have that sensitivity to clients' personal needs. And a lot of our sages that do really well from the get-go have that kind of consulting background, or at least that client-facing experience.
So Gardner asked a question. Have you worked on succession planning with family businesses?
Our first client was a business that's been around for 30 something years. And so that was one of, and one of my personal small business clients is that as well. So yes, we have.
Okay,
It's
and then
successful.
Patricia asks, how are you reaching these small businesses, and what are you doing to create awareness for your company?
So initially, we wanted to scale very carefully when we initially launched. We did, I feel like we launched the right way. A lot of people just build company and that's it, and they wait. We spent 2-3 months before building anything, just doing market research and intense market research. So we worked with one of our Sagely board advisors, who's a go-to-market expert, and we came up with deep dive interview questions. And so we spent about 40 minutes on the phone with almost 200 small businesses and small business owners to talk about kind of what their issues are. Our initial customers are from kind of our market research list. And then just through referrals, we've got some really random ones too that just happened upon our website and joined as well. We do have a content strategy that we're really trying to build up now, leveraging kind of the expertise of our sages. So we have writers and we have a social media team, works with newly onboarded sages on content. And we're also currently in the process of launching like a pretty massive cold email campaign.
Oh, wow. And then Mudit asks, is this similar to Advisory Cloud?
Not really. So Advisory Cloud, we have there's a lot happening in this space. And it's great because a lot of people need help. But Advisory Cloud is more of a pure platform. So you can join most of the small businesses or people on Advisory Cloud have an advisory board of about 100 people. So they go out and they find, people that they would need to talk to or want to talk to and add them to their deck. And then if they have a question, they post it, and advisors or potential advisors kind of answer that question in your kind of your company's, chat area, right? And it's free work, right? And so advisors pay to be on there. Small businesses also pay to be on there, but you're not paying the advisors for their advice. And so it becomes the situation, even if they like you, that you're constantly, as a small business owner, convincing people why they need to help you versus just understanding like, oh, I have this person, they want to help me, and for the reason behind them wanting to help me isn't something questionable.
So with our bootcamp community, how would you recommend people get involved with being a sage?
If you want to be a sage, I would absolutely love it and welcome it. Send me an email directly, and we'll get the process started. It might be a little slow, so we just brought on some new team members, so that's pretty exciting. We're thinking about maybe like a 4 to 6 week kind of lead time between kind of starting the process and then getting added to our platform.
Okay, and somebody asked the question, is it paid? Are these paid
Yes.
advisory services, or is it equity?
It's paid advisory services. And so because we're an early stage startup, It's a flat 100 per session. But if you do meet a client that wants to retain you for like a longer term, or you start working with a client and they're like, hey, we want to bring you on for an actual equity-based board advisor position, we allow that completely.
You know what,
We
it's
welcome that.
like, especially for our bootcamp community, with some of these startups, this could lead to like an actual executive position.
It could, yes. A lot of, we actually thought that some of our businesses, most of our customers were going to be really tiny, but we've gotten, customers that are doing like 10 to 12 million a year in revenue, and they just need help. These are people like me who are experts in maybe like one or two areas that you know, our most recent customer, they're like, I don't know how I got here. I mean, I call it luck. He's like, this is probably just luck, but now my luck's running out and I really, really need help. Um, and so there are opportunities for that.
It seems
But
like it.
it's also really great too, because you're working with these small businesses and startups that have a really innovative kind of take on how to do business, and how to start a business and grow business these days. And so that's one of the things that our sages love the most. Um, the feedback that we get from our clients is really amazing. We get, feedback from clients that honestly sometimes makes me want to cry. Our sages are sometimes even more excited about kind of seeing what they've kind of personally helped this client do, right? And so it's that that impact piece is really fulfilling.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Okay, so what about
Exactly, Greg.
geographic location?
Um, Geographically, we're all over the place, as are our customers. Our sages are East Coast, um, West Coast, Central Time. Same with our customers. And Sagely itself, we have a pretty, we have roots in Los Angeles here and in Boston. I'm going to be in Boston all summer, just working through an accelerator. But we're pretty big, well connected with the VC community there as well. So yeah, we're hoping to build something that's coastal, but only US for now.
Yeah, oh, okay. So really, because it's virtual, it can be, a company in California that's working with a sage in New York.
Yes. And
Okay.
the time frames also, don't matter that much, because most small business owners, work a lot. And so they're spending their day, doing facials or doing something else, like getting back to clients. And so when they can really focus on their business, sometimes it's, 6 p.m. or sometimes it's 7 a.m. in the morning. And so these wide ranges of availability is extremely helpful.
Okay, so Tina, it's geographically it's diverse, so it can be anywhere. It's not about geographic location, it sounds like. And
I understand. I was just trying to get a sense that there was more uptake in clients in one region or the other.
Um,
Because you're in LA, right?
yeah, I'm in LA. Actually, no. Yeah, no, I think our customers are pretty evenly split all over the place. Um, yeah.
Okay.
it seems like it. And then let's see. Bill asked, do you share client testimonials and case studies?
We don't currently, we have, I mean, I wouldn't call it a case study, but we do have, we got our first evangelist to do like a short little illustrator video that's on our website. So that's pretty exciting. But we not done any case studies. That's a great idea, and it's already on our to-do list.
Oh, that's great.
But
So
we do share testimonials.
so this morning I peek in at who your sages are periodically, and It seems like there's a great opportunity to have like employment law on there. And because that's something that I think small business owners really struggle with is, hiring practices and all of that. And I'm thinking about like Monica Madrid, who's one of our HR boot campers and who's in HR, and she happens to be a lawyer. So that would be a great opportunity for your sages to leverage, some legal advice or HR advice.
Oh my gosh, completely. There's I have an example. So one of our customers came to us. They do about 800,000 a year in revenue. They do data analytics for small businesses, and they didn't run background checks on their contractors. And they brought in a contractor that initially sounded like, they know what they were doing, but ended up holding their client's code hostage, releasing it on I forgot the platform. Is it GitHub? One of those. And asking for ransom, right, for the code. And so they were thinking about hiring an attorney, and the cost of an attorney like would be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and process would not promise that they'd get the code right. And so it's really that one scenario, had the founder pretty much in tears, had no idea what he needed to do. So
Wow.
we do have, yes, HR law is pretty big.
HR, and then operations. It's like how do I run my operations? How do I structure my operations? And so it seems like these are some great areas that once you get sages in, that your clients can really take advantage of that. So Lori asked for the Sagely URL. John, can you please put it back in the chat? It's in there. It's mysagely.com. And then Michelle, people are asking for your email. Do you want them to go to info@mysagely, or do you want them to go to Michelle?
Go to my inbox.
All right. Bring it on. Okay, what other questions do we have? This is such an exciting concept, Michelle. I just love it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I being a startup founder, I think, especially when you've had a career, is really difficult, right? Like eating top ramen when you're 22 is different from eating top ramen when you're 40, right? And so making that jump to an entrepreneur at again, right, knowing how difficult it is at this stage, it really has to be for something bigger, right?
Yeah.
And your driving force and your mission has to be bigger. And so it really is. I mean, I think with Sagely, we will be able to make a huge impact for people. And our sages and our customers have asked us for our advisory framework, because it has EQ at the foundation of everything. And we don't talk about that enough, but kind of knowing personally your strengths, avoiding these prejudices, projecting, using an active, confident kind of voice, limiting storytelling, where it's where you need to, like, all of these things have helped also our sages as well as our customers.
So
So
Patricia,
I'm pretty excited.
yeah, well, I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Patricia.
Yeah, Michelle, I just would love to know, like, what finally made you decide to like make that jump and become a business owner?
So, part of it started with boot camp. So in the boot camp, they really put you through a lot of now I don't know if everyone on the call has been through the entire program, but there's a lot of kind of finding your why, right? And what you do. We all do a lot in our day-to-day work, right? But there are things that we do that make us feel big, right? Make us feel like this is more than work. This transcends kind of my job. it's what I enjoy to do. It brings me kind of fulfillment on a different level, and kind of realizing what I love to do and kind of what my purpose, what I felt like my existential purpose was. Um, Finally kind of like finding that alignment and knowing, okay, I want to make a difference. And how I'm going to make a difference is showing people that we can make money and do good at the same time. I didn't know how I was going to do that, right? I knew like in the workplace things that I enjoyed, right? I knew that I love volunteering. You know, I've been a Red Cross volunteer for 16 years, but never being able to put any of that together. And then when I left corporate, I started consulting initially with larger companies and with small businesses. And the small business consulting took off. I had just through referrals, a ton of like people that, you know, were coming to me like, hey, I need help with this area. You know, I heard from so and so that you could do this, or you've helped her or him do this. And I was like, okay, well, great. It was just me. I couldn't scale it. Right. And so I had to start, you know, turning people down. And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is my, this is like the way to like make an impact. And so when you get to that, like when you figure out that like intersection of your passion, your purpose, you know, and just things that you enjoy doing, I felt like it was a no-brainer. There was no way for me to say, I'm just gonna keep working at a job and not do this. It wasn't even a choice.
That's fun. Okay, Bill asks, do any sages deal with intellectual property like trademarks, copyrights, etc.?
Yes, on a smaller scale, yes. But we do have a sage on the wait list that's an IP attorney. But we don't have not a ton of requests.
Okay, what other questions? We have Michele here for the next 10 minutes. What are the functional areas of sages that you need?
Great question, Tina. Currently, I think we're pretty low on finance sages, and we're really trying to test out this. So the next stage in growing Sagely is turning it into more productized services, right? And so we have those individual advisory pieces, but to be able to say, hey, um, you know, I need a little bit more help, but still productized. So we're working with, for example, some of our strategy sages on like a package that that is more similar to like a fractional CSO, right? And a fractional CFO also makes a lot of sense. But the fractional CFO programs that are out there are really geared for companies that are doing like $1 million plus, right? And so for these really tiny companies, we need something that's more tech enabled and requires a little less time, like human kind of interaction, but also with the set kind of like human kind of guidance. So finance is definitely one of them, but
Okay.
all areas.
And Tina asks, what about banking and treasury?
Banking and treasury, I would say not as much.
Seems like that would be more for bigger companies. Okay, what other questions? Wait, let's see. Did I get all the questions? I kind of got lost.
So I
had
have
a
another
about
question.
Oh, go for it, Patricia.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you obviously talked about the statistics at first, you know, with companies failing. So as you're looking to grow your business, and obviously I wish you nothing but success and every, you know, good thing coming your way, but like, is there a certain point where you're like, okay, if I'm not at this point within 2 years, I need to consider either changing my model, or do you not even consider that as part of the thought process because you just want to focus on, you know, the growth and not think about the negatives?
I think it's impossible to not think about the negatives, right? But we're very lucky that kind of Sagely itself, you know, the concept sits kind of straddled across all of these extremely large like shifts that we're seeing. So the shift in kind of remote work, right? Shift in kind of small businesses. So all of these huge shifts that we're seeing um, is the shift in kind of also people wanting to work for different reasons, right? Like wanting to start their own business, not wanting to work for the man anymore. Um, and so that piece is really promising. I'm not, uh, I don't think that my vision today is going to is going to be the same as my vision in like 6 months or 12 months, right? There's no startup, I don't think, that exists, that goes into it day one and is really successful 5 or 10 years later, that hasn't pivoted, like, and so I fully aware that we need to pivot. But I also do believe that as long as you keep building for what your customers want and you're solving for a large problem and you're open to kind of changing course, right? And figure out how you're solving that problem, that there's your possibility of success is a lot greater. Um, that 2 year mark is really low. I think, especially in today's kind of economic environment and funding environment for most startups, you're looking at like a 5 year minimum, 5 to 7 year kind of adventure, right? And we're also extremely lucky that we are VC backed. Our funding round that we're closing now has been oversubscribed. And so we're doing really well on the funding side. And we've also managed to build a business that's not very costly. So our fixed costs aren't very high. But to grow to where we'd like to grow, we do need that additional kind of injection of capital to kind of shorten our like speed to market to make that a lot faster, but to also add kind of the more heavy tech piece. When you're buying data, when you're working with AI, machine learning in general, like that stuff gets pretty costly.
One question, and then I want to jump into the incubators that you're part of. Tina asks, how do you define company size, by revenue or number of employees?
So when we're focusing, and I'm happy to share all of these things too, the segments that we are really focused on in the existence stage is really under kind of 3 employees. And so that's based on US Bureau of Labor Statistics data that usually companies within a year old have under 3 employees. And that's kind of what we're focusing on for existence. And then for the survival, it's under 20.
Okay, that's good to know. All right. So you launched your company. Did you go through the first incubator before you launched, or is that how you launched?
So
And explain the whole incubator thing.
So before I started Sagely, I was at a Techstars backed startup. And so they're an accelerator. I would say they're like the second most popular next to Y Combinator's accelerator. And we raised a 2.7 mil pre-seed. I was their VP of operations and employee number 1 there. And so having gone through that process, having started my own company before, I felt pretty confident in my ability to do it without joining another one. That said, I feel like the whole incubator accelerator market it's becoming very saturated right now. There's one everywhere. Everyone has their own incubator or accelerator. But I do feel like those do add value because being a business owner, being a startup founder is really lonely. And there's a lot of kind of emotional highs and lows that you go through, and just having kind of a support group that you can work with and talk to, other founders. Are you also experiencing this? And that's helpful. So we didn't go through one.
Oh, you didn't. But now you're joining one in Boston. Is that correct?
Yes. So we're joining one. It's part of the Boston University community. So it's their summer accelerator. And it's really to, I mean, even the director of the program was like, I don't know if you're going to get much out of it, but it's free money. It's non-dilutive funds. And it's the networking. Like a lot of things, it's just being able to, spend a lot of time with, people managing the Boston Chamber of Commerce. It's being able to spend a lot of time and get kind of that personal connection with VCs that are there, with other business owners that are there. Boston is a hub for startups just because it's so heavy on the institution front. There's a lot of, college campuses there. So there's a ton of startups popping up in Boston.
And, I feel like you might be understating how difficult it is to get into some of these accelerators.
It is pretty difficult.
So why would they pick you over somebody else? Because I've talked to a lot of startups who have tried to get into some incubators and they just they haven't been accepted.
I think, so the startup failure rate is even more intense. When you look at tech startups, right, the failure rate's like 90%. And so there's a lot of great ideas out there, but it's all in the execution, right? And so I also think that there's a lot of people that are really, on the kind of venture capital and investment front, just really tight with their money right now. Valuations are very low, and so we're just seeing like a general tightening of VC purses in general. But I would say just progress. I mean, for a lot of these startup founders, they might need to apply multiple times, and every single, especially if you're a first time founder, like going from being an expert, I was like chief strategy officer and senior director of global operations, going from a role like that to a startup founder and having to learn this entire industry and the acronyms and just everything. I felt really dumb, to be honest, like it's a lot to learn. And so I don't think it's not easy to get it on the first go.
Well,
Most people don't.
Can I
kind
add
of-
something too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I agree with you, Michelle, because I was a startup founder for the last 4 years. And I've also been heavily involved with the Orange County ecosystem here. One thing you mentioned, for startups that are small businesses and they don't really have much funding, I don't know if everyone is aware of this. Some of these universities will charge an enormous amount and they're not free, right? So, and they're not funded or anything. Case in point, Cal State Fullerton, they charge $5,000. So if you're a startup with no budget yet that, has any revenue coming in, I mean, that's impossible to even get in some of these any of these incubators. So, that's one point really that I wanted to make, that there's a lot of levels of these incubators, different levels and the way they support you. So that's something that if you are entertaining that idea, do your research.
Thank you, Tracy. And we're close to out of time. Michelle, I want to applaud you. Okay, you have really rocked it. And what a testament to, your just, fortitude and initiative and courage. My gosh, that is so amazing. And you and I had an opportunity to meet in person up in Santa Monica, and that was so much fun. And your energy is incredible. And I think all of us would say, we really applaud you and we wish you really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to send out the recording. we're going to send out the link to contact Michele and to apply to be a Sage. And David Wittenkamp, hey, she said it. She's looking for finance people as a Sage. And so, yeah, he's raising his hand because he is, I don't know, on my screen, he's the star finance guy. And so
I will definitely get in touch with Michele. I have made notes,
Thank
so
you.
we already connected on LinkedIn. But
yeah,
we'll follow up. Trust me.
it's wonderful. And I love what you're doing. Promise me you're going to come back and tell us more about what Sagely is involved with. And we could talk about all the boot campers that are your Sages and all the small companies that you're working with.
I had a question that I had put in the chat.
Okay,
which
hurry up.
was
We've got just
ADA compliance for websites. Do you have somebody working on that?
We don't have someone specifically working on that, but we do have attorneys on our platform that can.
Yeah, because some of the attorneys don't know the resources where to go. So that's why I was asking, because that's what I'm finding. I have a startup that actually does that, so we can talk
Oh,
offline.
wow. Awesome.
all right. Well, Michele and everyone, thank you so much for
Thank you so
coming in.
much, everybody.
Oh, Michele, and I can't wait to hear about your success. So I think it'll be really, really fun.
I'm going to the reunion if anyone else is going. So would love
Yeah,
to
are you
meet
coming?
all of you in person. Yes, I am.
Awesome. We love it. Okay, so everyone, we're gonna see you. I've got to stop the recording but I want to play the music, but I can't because of stop recording because copyright infringement.